So, is the Penguin as good as people say it is? Absolutely. Nah, it's even better. It's the best gangster series in years, and the greatest comic book TV show ever made, period. The Batman director Matt Reeves and showrunner Lauren LaFranc created a masterpiece, and Colin Farrell has given one of the greatest performances of a supervillain, right up there next to Heath Ledger's portrayal as the Joker. The Penguin takes the dark, gritty world of the Batman and brings it into the gangster genre. It's a no-holds-barred crime saga tour de force. Matt Reeves' The Batman was the most grounded take on the character we'd ever seen on screen. A true detective story, taking influence from 1970s neo-noir classics like Clute, All the President's Men, and Chinatown. But one of the major highlights of the film was Colin Farrell's performance as the Penguin. Colin underwent a fascinating physical transformation, spending 3 hours each day in the makeup chair, turning into the most intimidating, most menacing, most realistic take on the character we'd seen yet. Makeup designer Michael Marino drew inspiration from historical photographs of scarred up World War I and World War II soldiers, hardened, old-school gangsters, and images of battle-worn birds of prey to give the Penguin the rough look of an underdog who clawed his way up out of poverty. This is Oswald Cobb, a Gotham City gangster. Don't call him the Penguin.
What you call me?
A charming, charismatic villain with a ruthless intensity. But unfortunately, in The Batman, we only saw Oz in a few key scenes. He was overlooked for most of the film, while other characters took center stage. However, there was a deleted scene in the film that didn't make the final edit. No, not the scene where Batman visits the Joker in Arkham Asylum. Another scene, one you're probably not aware of. Batman has equipped Selina with contact lenses that let him see through her eyes, and he's sent her to 47 Below, the exclusive club within the club, hidden beneath the Iceberg Lounge. But in order to access the club, Selina must first get permission from the Penguin, whom assumes she's going down there to turn tricks. He's concerned for her, and he offers her money.
Look, what do you need?
Oz.
I don't mind, come on. Don't you know how I feel about you by now? I'd do anything for you.
Oz. I don't want your money.
The way Selina looks at him in this moment cuts Oz to the bone.
Wasn't I good enough for you?
He leans towards her and says this.
I know you don't see it yet, honey. Nobody does. But Falcone ain't gonna be around forever. One day this city's gonna be mine.
In this moment, we catch a glimpse of the real Oswald Cobb. We get a sense of his drive, his murderous intensity. This is a man who will stop at nothing to get to the top. And this ruthless ambition is what this show is all about. He lies, schemes, and murders his way through each episode, manipulating everyone around him, orchestrating chaos to his advantage, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. And through this journey we discover who he really is, what drives him. We learn about his past, his pain, the source of his ambition. While The Batman was an exploration into the corruption of Gotham City, The Penguin is an exploration into the corruption of Oz's soul. What separates The Penguin from so many other gangster TV series is The Penguin is the first ever truly Gothic gangster TV show. No gangster show or movie has ever fully embraced the Gothic like The Penguin has. But what do I mean by a Gothic gangster TV show? What does Gothic mean? It can be difficult to pin down exactly what Gothic means as a storytelling genre. Regardless of what you might think, Gothic is not about horror or frightening the audience. Gothic stories are not necessarily about vampires or demons or the supernatural, but they can be. Gothic is less about the types of stories that are told, but more so how they're told. Gothic is a style, or better yet, a mood. Gothic is defined by its atmosphere. These are stories steeped in a rich, foreboding, evocative mood. They're often set in desolate locations, crumbling mansions, dark woods, and sprawling, decaying cities. These settings are imbued with a sense of timelessness, like they've been suspended from the natural flow of history. They evoke a sense of melancholy and impending doom. Wild, stormy weather amplifies the haunting resonance of these tales, and this intense atmosphere is embodied in the characters. These are stories about dark, foreboding figures, agents of passion, caught tight in the grip of powerful obsessions, driven by unresolved trauma and their own ruthless sense of justice. These are intense, psychologically damaged individuals. What Gothic stories do is they explore the darker aspects of human nature. They take the most troubling elements of the human condition and bring them to life with operatic intensity and dark grandeur. These are tragic tales of isolation, confinement, and madness. Characters are often consumed by an obsessive desire for revenge, trapped within a vicious cycle of trauma, retribution, and self-destruction. Dark family secrets are uncovered and brought into the light as these tales unfold. These are stories about dysfunction, dysfunctional families and relationships, obsessive desires, and doomed romances. Gothic stories explore the frailties and corruptibility of human nature. Corruption of society, corruption of the institutions, corruption of the innocent, corruption of the youth, and decay. Decay of morality, decay of social order, decay of the body, decay of the mind. The crumbling decay of these settings reflect the inner psychological turmoil of the characters. Deep underground tunnels and labyrinthian hallways symbolize the buried depths of the unconscious. What Gothic is, in essence, it's a celebration of the beauty in darkness. To truly understand what Gothic means on a deeper level and how it relates to the Batman and the Penguin, we need to go back to the very beginning of the genre's inception. The term Gothic was originally used to describe an architectural style that emerged during the Middle Ages. It was most commonly associated with cathedrals, towering, majestic structures designed to inspire awe and reverence for the divine. The art of this period was deeply rooted in religious themes, bringing biblical stories to life, instilling a sense of fear and awe in the power of God. As the Middle Ages drew to a close, this style gave way to the Renaissance, a cultural and artistic movement that revived the classical ideals of ancient Greece and Rome. The art of this period moved away from religious abstraction and instead focused on naturalism. This shift set the stage for the Enlightenment, an era of science and rationality. Enlightenment thinkers championed radical, revolutionary ideas like democracy, individual freedom, and the separation of church and state. These ideas gave birth to the French Revolution, which led to drastic social and political upheaval. Mass executions became common, and the guillotine claimed the lives of thousands. The focus on scientific advancement and innovation gave rise to the Industrial Revolution, which reshaped entire economies, industries, and society at large. Rapid urbanization and the rise of factories displaced many people in rural communities. This created a strong sense of alienation and disillusionment amongst many people, and it was from this disconnection from nature and traditional ways of life that fueled what would become the Romantic era, or Romanticism. Romanticism celebrated emotion, intuition, and the untamed power of the natural world. It was a return to the past, a rejection of the dehumanizing effects of the industrial age. The art of this period rejected realism and instead embraced an exaggerated, heightened reality. One of the major aims of the Romantics was to bring people into experience with the sublime. The sublime is that which evokes both awe and terror. It's the experience of facing something so vast, so powerful, it overwhelms the senses. Standing before a towering mountain, a raging storm, or a wild, untamed beast. The sublime taps into our deepest fears and instincts for survival, imbuing us with a sense of reverence for the beauty and power of the natural world. It lifts us up into a state of overwhelming astonishment where time stands still. The sublime is an exaltation of the soul. And this was the goal of the Romantics, to stir the emotions and to bring people back into contact with the power and wonder of the world around us. But there was a dark subset of Romanticism, the Dark Romantics. They explored the darker, more extreme aspects of nature and the human condition. These were tales of transgression, violence, and psychological corruption, where characters were pushed to the brink of insanity. And this is where the Gothic genre was born. Gothic stories took the inner psychological turmoil of the Dark Romantics and externalized it into living, breathing nightmares. They embraced the uncanny and the grotesque. The genre took the name from Gothic architecture. While Gothic cathedrals were originally intended to evoke reverence for the divine, over time, these old decaying structures took on a more ominous tone, and this haunting atmosphere defined Gothic stories. They are steeped in dark ambience. They represent our deepest fears and anxieties, bringing them to life in the most theatrical, most exaggerated, most operatic form possible. The genre was brought to the silver screen during the silent era, where filmmakers used dark, distorted sets and chiaroscuro lighting to create hypnotic visions of fear and doom. They brought to life Gothic monsters like Nosferatu, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. These stories captured humanity's deepest, darkest fears of the time: the fear of scientific overreach, the fear of outsiders, and the fear of rapid urbanization. They portrayed urban cities as dangerous and chaotic, dense, fog-filled streets, claustrophobic alleyways where evil lurks in darkness and anonymity. The aristocracy is depicted as predatory, feeding on the innocent, while industrialization grinds people down, stripping them of identity, leaving them vulnerable to violence, exploitation, and madness. Gothic stories are defined by their intensity. These are not realistic tales. They are dark fever dreams. The characters of these stories are often isolated and vulnerable. Their crumbling, Gothic surroundings reflect their inner psychological turmoil. As they navigate through these eerie environments, they are simultaneously exploring the dark recesses of their minds. Secret passageways and trapdoors lead down into cavernous tunnels. Dark, labyrinthian pathways represent the twisted nature of their psyches. Intense storms, howling winds, thunderous lightning all mirror the emotional volatility of these characters. Often, towards the end of these stories, fires break out, consuming entire Gothic mansions, burning them to the ground. One of the most important characteristics of Gothic stories is Gothic terror. Gothic terror is very different to horror. Horror is based on immediate physical threats, while terror is psychological. Horror is the fear of what will happen. Terror is the fear of what might happen. Gothic terror is when the dark, malevolent atmosphere of the story begins to infiltrate the characters' minds, playing tricks on their perceptions. Doors creak, footsteps echo in empty hallways, muffled voices call from the past, winds howl, and candlelit flames are extinguished, plunging characters into suffocating darkness. Gothic terror preys on primal fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear of confinement, the fear of the dark. It fills you with an overwhelming sense of vulnerability, the feeling of being left open to an uncanny, ill-defined threat that could strike out at you at any moment. That is Gothic terror. When the attack comes, it's hard, it's violent, it's shocking. It's the experience of coming face to face with a threat so terrifying, so overwhelming, it shatters your grip on reality, leaving you in shock, destroying your sense of self, plunging you into complete and utter madness. Gothic terror is the darkest, most intense expression of the sublime. What makes Batman so special as a character is that he embodies all the qualities of the Gothic. Batman is a Gothic superhero, but unlike other superheroes, he doesn't have superpowers. His only special ability, if you can call it that, is his ability to inflict Gothic terror on his enemies. Batman uses Gothic terror as a weapon to strike fear into the hearts of criminals. He preys on their superstitions, invading their psyches and paralyzing them with fear. He moves through the shadows like a phantom. His violence is shocking and brutal. His enemies' screams echo through the night as he takes them down one by one. Everything about him, his costume, his weapons, his car, is designed to evoke Gothic terror. Batman is an operatic Gothic spectacle. But Batman's appearance isn't just designed to scare criminals, it's an outward reflection of his inner psychological turmoil. He's a brooding, tragic figure, tormented, isolated, and utterly obsessed in his war on crime. He turns his pain and darkness into a weapon, blending into the shadows where he strikes out at the heart of criminality. He takes his enemies down with surgical precision, one by one, then vanishes into the night. Gotham is a quintessential Gothic city. The towering Gothic architecture, tight claustrophobic streets, and dark alleys emanate a sinister, oppressive atmosphere. Batman embraces the fear and darkness of the city. He haunts the shadows, turning every dark corner into a potential point of ambush. Narrow alleys become instruments of terror. He uses the verticality of the city to torment his victims. Gotham City is Batman's domain, all the way up to the vast, open expanse of its rooftops, where he watches from above, and all the way down to the bottom of Gotham streets below. and further below still, down into the dark tunnels that lie underneath. The city has a labyrinthian network of interconnected passageways that stretch all across Gotham, leading to hidden underground lairs and secret Gothic fortresses. As a child, Bruce Wayne witnessed his parents murdered in cold blood. He cried, and in his grief he made a vow to dedicate his life to waging war on crime, and he hasn't shed a tear since. Since Detective Comics issue number 27, Batman has been terrorizing the criminals of Gotham City. For decades, he's been crushing the competition in comic books, merchandise, video games, cartoons, and beating the ever-living fuck out of the box office, making him the most popular superhero of all time. Batman is the ultimate embodiment of the Gothic. He's the Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, mysterious figure of the night, winged beast of vengeance, nemesis of all crime. I don't need to tell you who he is. He'll tell you who he is.
I'm Batman.
Batman isn't just a Gothic character. Batman is the Gothic character. He represents everything wild and wonderful about the Gothic, and that is precisely why he is so iconic and why he is my favorite character of all time. Batman is a force of nature. Batman is the sublime.
Like a rat in a trap, gentlemen. You might have the wrong animal there, sir.
But if Batman was too powerful, too omnipotent, his stories just wouldn't work. Every great protagonist needs an equally great antagonist in order to maintain drama and suspense. What makes Batman's stories so compelling is his villains. Gotham City is populated by some of the most fascinating and iconic villains of all time. It's a terrifying rogues gallery like none other. They are the dark, scary monsters that come out at night. They push Batman to his absolute limits, challenging him both physically as well as psychologically. They are products of their environment. Many of them have tragic, traumatic backstories. They are a dark mirror image of Batman's fractured psyche. Many of them have dual identities. Some have split personalities. Some are completely insane. They represent the wild, untamed aspects of nature. Characters like Killer Croc or Man-Bat are primal Gothic beasts, blurring the line between human and monster. Firefly, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze harness the sublime, overpowering force of nature and weaponize it. They are Gothic criminals with their own tools of terror. While Batman uses Gothic terror to fight crime, his villains use Gothic terror to further corrupt and degrade the city. They use bombs, hallucinogenic toxins, and deadly gas to strike fear in the citizens of Gotham. Most of them are influenced by the Gothic villains of the Silent Era. The Joker was influenced by the Man Who Laughs. Two-Face is a Dick Tracy-esque take on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Clayface was influenced by the Golem, as well as the Universal monster movies of the 1930s. Like many Gothic villains, they are defined by their obsessions. The Riddler is obsessed with riddles. Two-Face is obsessed with duality and chance. Harley Quinn is obsessed with the Joker, and the Joker is obsessed with Batman. There's a hierarchy within the criminal underworld of Gotham, and at the very top of it sits the Penguin.
That waddling master of foul play?
A criminal maestro of 1,000 ubiquitous umbrellas.
the pitiless, pestiferous prince of pain and plunder, the pedantic patriarch of predators. He is
the infamous Penguin, perpetrator of paramount crimes, harlequin of whodunits, and a fly in the ointment of justice.
The Penguin is the reigning kingpin of Gotham. What makes the Penguin so dangerous is, unlike so many of his fellow villains, he isn't crazy. He knows exactly what he is doing. While other Batman villains are driven by insanity or ideological obsessions, the Penguin is driven by greed and ruthless pragmatism. His only obsession is with money and power. He's a Gothic gangster with a dark past. In the comics, he was relentlessly bullied as a child for his grotesque appearance, but that pain fueled his rise to the top. He became a criminal mastermind, involved in every facet of organized crime: grand larceny, weapons, drugs, sex trafficking, even child exploitation. He embodies the dark sublime, the primal, animalistic spirit of the Gothic. He has a wild, steampunk flair for the operatic. However, this iteration of the Penguin, in this show, strips all of that back. Gone are the gimmick umbrellas and weaponized penguins. This is a much more grounded version of the character. A year one origin story of Oswald Cobb. And this is what makes this show so special. It takes the core characteristics of Gothic stories and applies it to the gangster genre. Oz is a Gothic gangster through and through. His moral compass is as skewed as his face. He encapsulates all the archetypal qualities of a Gothic villain. He's fiercely charismatic and manipulative, paranoid and volatile. He's Gothic terror incarnate, a terrifying monster with a fierce temper. He's on that Gotham City mobster shit, that Gothic supervillain, shoot a motherfucker just for laughing at you shit. Like so many Gothic villains, he's obsessed with power. He's out to take over Gotham City, and he'll do so by any means necessary. He'll stab you up, body bag you, bury you out in the dark, eerie Gothic woods on the outskirts of Gotham City. He's driven by an intense, pathological desire to rise to the top, and is willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Extortion, blackmail, kidnapping, murder. He embodies the corruption and decay of the city. Early in the first episode, there's a scene where he's managing the Falcone crime family's drugs operation. Drops, Gotham's fictional narcotics that are ingested through the eyes. He's told that the recent floods have contaminated the supply, which hypothetically could lead to eye infection or even blindness in its users. But Oz doesn't care.
No, that ain't gonna stop dropheads from buying it.
No.
So let's give the people what they want.
All right.
He has an insidious influence on the city and all the people around him. In the first episode, he strikes up an unlikely mentorship with a teenage boy named Victor, a relationship built on intimidation and threats.
You're gonna do everything I say, or else I'll murder you and anyone you care about. You got it?
Yeah.
As the story unfolds, it becomes increasingly clear that Oz keeps him around because he wants someone to look up to him, someone to feed his ego and make him feel important. And in return, Oz lures Victor into the world of crime, corrupting him with his poisonous, nihilistic worldview. The Penguin is an evil, diabolical villain, a Gothic monster in a tailored suit. And like all Gothic monsters, his moral corruption is reflected in his outward appearance. His scarred up face and beak-like nose give him a predatory, animalistic quality. His deformed foot forces him to walk in a lurching, unsettling waddle that amplifies his monstrous, terrifying nature. But there are other times when you feel sorry for him, even care for him, which makes it all the more shocking later when he does something truly horrific. And this is what makes Gothic monsters so fascinating. They're not simply two-dimensional, evil villains. They're so much more than that. They thrive on ambiguity, alternating between monstrous violence and raw vulnerability. They are deeply tragic figures. They aren't terrifying because they're inhuman. They're terrifying because they're too human. They are unsettling in their relatability. Their emotions are universal. Loneliness, jealousy, anger, and rage. They embody our repression, our deepest, darkest nature. They represent the most extreme, most untamed aspects of the human condition. And this is what makes the Penguin such a powerful, fascinating figure. He channels the sublime. His ambition is intense. His rage explosive. But his emotions come from a place that's deeply human and relatable. He's an underdog, motivated by resentment. The resentment of being disrespected his whole life, of being looked down on, of being laughed at, marginalized by the very people he works for. There are occasions in this show when he is shown disrespect and contempt, and this darkness comes over him, a hidden, seething rage. These moments are all the more pronounced when he's called the Penguin, a name he detests. His pain boils from within, but he uses it as steam to power his drive. And when he does finally maneuver himself into position to enact his revenge, he doesn't just kill his enemies, he murders them in the most over-the-top, theatrical way possible. For Oz, violence is a performative act, a statement. The Penguin is part of a long tradition of Batman villains who turn murder into operatic performance art, death traps, televised murders, elaborate life or death moral dilemmas. Batman villains, like so many Gothic villains of the past, are known for transforming murder into grand spectacle. The Penguin takes a deep, disturbing satisfaction in causing pain. He loves getting over on his rivals in the most violent, horrific way possible. The Penguin isn't just a TV show about a gangster, it's a TV show about a supervillain. The Penguin is super evil, super ambitious, and just like Batman, super obsessed in his mission. What makes a supervillain is that they're written to be a direct challenge to the hero of the story. And even though Batman is not present in this show, the Penguin is still established as an inevitable threat. He's a powerful figure. He's often shot from the ground up to amplify his formidable presence, like so many iconic Batman villains before him. One of the core characteristics of a Batman villain is they often act as a dark mirror to Bruce Wayne himself. The Joker represents the chaos and disorder against Batman's discipline and control, while Two-Face is a dark mirror image to the duality of Bruce Wayne and Batman and their opposing views on justice. And in many ways, in this show, the Penguin is set up as Batman's direct opposite. While Bruce Wayne comes from great wealth, the Penguin comes from poverty. Bruce Wayne is modest, while the Penguin is vain and self-obsessed. Bruce Wayne is introverted, a shut-in. The Penguin is an extrovert, the life of the party.
Ain't that what makes me fun?
Bruce Wayne doesn't care about the public's opinion of him or his family's name or legacy.
I don't care about that. Any of that.
You don't care about your family's legacy?
What I'm doing is my family's legacy.
The Penguin is obsessed with his legacy. He wants his name to ring out through the history of Gotham. But the main difference between the two is that Batman wants to rid Gotham of crime and corruption, while the Penguin wants to capitalize off it. He wants to control the levers of power for his own enrichment and self-aggrandizement. He wants to rule over Gotham as the king of crime. But Gotham is a whole other beast. A very different city from the ones you're used to seeing in other gangster TV shows. While series like The Wire or The Sopranos aim for grounded realism with their settings, Gotham embraces the surreal, exaggerated elements of the Gothic. It evokes both awe and terror, embodying the ferocious, primal energy of the sublime. It's a distorted mirror image of urban America, magnifying its deepest, darkest flaws and fears, staging them in a dark opera of theatrical intensity. This isn't realism, this is a heightened, hyper-reality, a criminal war zone where rival gangs clash for control of the drug trade. But these aren't your typical gangsters, these are Gotham City villains. They'll do whatever it takes, breaking down doors, home invasions, torture, kidnapping, even mass murder. The violence is extreme, operatic. The show maintains a level of gritty realism, but still leans into the fantastical elements of the street-level superhero genre. It's a world where the improbable is possible. The same universe where a man dresses up as a bat and fights crime at night.
I'm vengeance.
Gotham is a character in and of itself, a living, breathing entity, a dark, malevolent force, entrapping and corrupting its inhabitants. The city teeters on the brink of collapse. Its lights barely hold on, flickering and pulsing in a haunting rhythm that feels like the faint heartbeat of Gotham itself. This world is alive, brimming with mayhem and chaos. It's a city steeped in Gothic terror, where death lurks around every corner. Each gang is vying for power, carving out their own territory. But the Penguin wants it all, and he knows how to get it. He knows which palms to grease, which people to shake down, who to team up with, and who to fuck over. He is unrelenting. He'll get knocked down, but he's back up again that very same episode.
Come on, you bastard, let's go!
Ready to fight, ready to take on whoever.
Come on, let's go!
While Batman is meticulous in his plans, moving through the shadows with stealth and care, the Penguin is awkward, waddling through the daylight from one fuck up to the next. He's slippery, he's able to talk his way out of any situation, forever adapting to his ever-changing environment.
You wanna survive? You gotta adapt. You gotta respond to the environment, the situation. You gotta think on your feet. You gotta be quick.
And like so many Gothic villains, the setting of the show reflects his inner moral decline. The industrial decay of the city, the rusted warehouses and dilapidated streets all mirror his psychological corruption. And as the series progresses, we further explore the depths of his depravity. Winter sets in, snow falls and ice thickens, an external manifestation of the cold darkness of the Penguin's psyche. One of the things I really love about gangster movies and TV shows is that they use the power of cinema to transport us into fascinating foreign criminal worlds. Whether it's the gangsters of the Brazilian favelas in City of God, the facela streets of Naples and Gomorrah, or the world of the Hong Kong triads in the films of Johnny To or John Woo, the best gangster movies maximize the potential of cinema to bring us into these different criminal subcultures from the safe comfort of our homes. And this is exactly what makes the Penguin so great. This is the first time on screen we're able to fully explore the criminal underworld of Gotham from the perspective of an up-and-coming Batman villain. In Batman movies, much of these stories take place in the upper heights of Gotham. Action set pieces and pivotal dialogue scenes often take place atop rooftops, and so much of the drama of these stories unfold in the upper echelons of Gotham's high society. There's often a shot in these movies where the camera ascends, climbing all the way up, higher and higher, until it reaches the very top of Gotham City. These are stories told from above, looking down. But in The Penguin, it's the opposite. This is a show about the underbelly of Gotham City, told from the ground up. Right from the very first episode, there's a shot where the camera descends, dropping all the way down to the dark, grimy streets below. They frequently put the camera in low-angle positions to capture the towering, oppressive nature of the buildings above them. Gotham City's train line is often framed overhead, intensifying the city's oppressive atmosphere, creating a sense of foreboding and entrapment. The Penguin is influenced by the 1970s crime classic, The French Connection, which follows two NYPD detectives as they unravel the largest heroin smuggling ring in New York City's history. The director William Friedkin used low-angle shots to highlight the imposing urban landscape, framing the New York City train line from above, looming over the characters. Much like The Penguin, The French Connection was a story about obsession and urgency. The main characters were ruthless in their pursuit, and the film's shaky, handheld approach to cinematography and frenetic, unstable editing amplified that sense of mounting pressure. The Penguin follows suit, using jittery camera movements and sharp jump cuts to immerse the viewer in the immediate chaos of Oz's mental state. But what made The French Connection so unique was it took the darkness of film noir and brought it into the daylight. The sunlight stripped away the shadows, exposing the character's moral ambiguity and the city's degradation. The Penguin follows this approach to a T, embodying what Matt Reeves has referred to as daytime noir. In Batman movies, Gotham is usually shot at night, shrouded in darkness. But in The Penguin, the show brings this dark Gothic city into the daylight. The sun highlights the cracks and crevices of the city's crumbling urban decay. The graffiti on the walls clearly visible, revealing all the many hidden Easter eggs and comic book references scattered all throughout the show. Matt Reeves and the showrunner Lauren LaFranc have said there were two major influences on The Penguin, the first being The French Connection, but the second was Scarface. Scarface, much like The Penguin, is all about the come-up. It's a movie about Tony Montana, a criminal immigrant who rises up through the drug trade of Miami in the 1980s. Like Tony, The Penguin comes from poverty. They both flaunt their wealth with a loud, gaudy flair. They both wear flashy, bright-colored suits. They're both irascible and bombastic, constantly butting heads with their superiors, forever looking for an edge to take power for themselves. Scarface was a remake of the original 1932 version of the same name, but it was really a revival of the Depression-era gangster movies of the early 30s. These were rags to riches stories of young men rising up through the underworld during the Prohibition era. They were character studies of larger-than-life, bombastic gangsters, played by incredible leading men who delivered captivating physical performances. Stars like James Cagney, who had a history in musical theatre. Al Pacino followed in that tradition, acting with his whole body, usually filmed in medium or wide shot to capture the raw physicality of his performance. The Penguin follows suit. Colin Farrell uses his whole body to bring this gothic monster to life, often filmed in wide shot and often filmed in movement. Much like Scarface, The Penguin is a story about the fast life. They're both characterized by a strong sense of urgency. Tony Montana was always on the move, always coming or going. He always had better places to be. And The Penguin is very similar. He's always in a rush, looking down at his watch, forever impatient.
Hey, come on! Some of us got places to be. Look out the firewood. Losing time. Gotta fucking go now!
In Scarface, and the earlier Prohibition-era gangster films that inspired it, the dramatic conflict in these stories stemmed from the main character's desire to rise up and overthrow the top gangsters in charge. The bosses in these stories were often the same ones who put them in position to begin with, usually unaware of the main character's plans until it was too late. And this is the dramatic thrust of the show. Oz is out to take down the head gangsters in Gotham, his bosses, the Falcone crime family. The Falcones are the central power hub of Gotham, controlling the politicians, the courts, the media, and supplying drugs to every major gang in the city. They aren't like the crime families used to seeing in mafia movies. They are a gothic exaggeration of the mafia. They come from a long line of super criminals that have controlled Gotham for generations. They live in an opulent Italian villa. The limestone walls are finished with Venetian plaster and adorned with priceless pre-Renaissance frescoes from the late Gothic period. As are their comic book counterparts, the Falcones were influenced by the Corleone crime family from the Godfather movies, except they are far more sinister beneath the surface. In a city where the institutions are failing, the Falcones are an institution in and of itself, both feared and hated by the public, constantly protested against. And it's this criminal empire the Penguin wants to usurp from within, a desire born from deep-seated jealousy. While the Penguin had to claw his way up out of poverty, the Falcones were born into privilege, and he resents them for it.
Can you imagine living like that? In a mansion, maids and butlers and shit. And they don't even know what they got because they always had it.
At its core, this is a tale of ambition and class. A man rising above his station, navigating his way through the upper echelons of Gotham's criminal elite. What's so compelling about the show is how it subverts the gangster genre, and one of the most important ways it does that is through its portrayal of women. Throughout the history of gangster films and TV shows, women were rarely shown in positions of power. Instead, they were typically relegated to roles of wives or mistresses. Historically, in America, women have rarely held positions of leadership in organized crime, but The Penguin is not a gangster show based on realism. It's a gangster show set in the world of Batman, and Gotham has a long, rich history of powerful, compelling female villains. The show introduces us to some of the most remarkable women, not just in Batman's mythology, but in the entire crime genre. You have Oz's mother, who acts as consigliere and co-conspirator. You have Nadia Moroni, the Persian matriarch, wife of jailed boss Salvatore Moroni. The show is filled with amazing female characters, all played by phenomenal actresses. And then there is, of course, Sophia Falcone. There isn't much I can say about this character without spoiling the show. In fact, Sophia Falcone needs an entire video dedicated just to her in order to give her justice. Sophia is played by Krista Milioti, and she gives the best performance of any female gangster in any movie or TV show ever made. This show has taken a D-list Batman villain and turned her into an A-list superstar villainess. She gives a powerful, spellbinding performance. She is a quintessential Gothic femme fatale, dangerous and beautiful, wild, intense, and totally unpredictable. But she's also sensitive, fragile, and vulnerable. Sophia Falcone is like so many Batman characters over the years. She's a child of trauma, a tormented soul taken from a life of privilege and locked away in a Gothic dungeon, driven to the brink of insanity. Even after she's freed, she's still psychologically imprisoned by her family's expectations of her. She's constantly under threat, looking over her shoulder. She doesn't know who to trust, suffocating under the weight of her family's legacy. She wakes in a panic, clawing at her throat. Her neck is often covered. She's always smoking. Sophia Falcone is defined by her inability to breathe.
Jesus Christ, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Sophia, look at me. Your father's hand is not on your throat anymore. It doesn't matter what he or anyone else wanted for you. What do you want?
I want to be free. I want Oz to feel pain. Real pain. The kind that I have felt.
And that's what this show is all about. It's about trauma and revenge. It's the central theme of not just this series, but of Matt Reeves' entire Batman crime epic. The central characters in this world have all been through trauma. They are outsiders, driven by a burning desire for vengeance. Whether it's the Penguin, the Riddler, Catwoman, or Batman, they're all out to enact their warped sense of justice on the city, especially Sophia. We witness her transform from a naive young woman into a dark, powerful gangster. She embraces the wild, feral, untamed aspects of the Gothic as she rises up through Gotham's underworld. And just like the Penguin, she has her eyes on the top spot, and she's willing to kill anyone and everyone to get there. And this is where the show is truly genius in how it subverts the structure of the rise to power gangster movies. Instead of this being a story about one gangster rising up to take power, it's a story about two gangsters rising up, both competing for the throne. In this story, there are two Scarfaces, two Mannys. They're both fiercely ambitious, both willing to do whatever it takes to rise to the top. They are archetypal Gothic gangsters. The Penguin is the classic Gothic monster, while Sophia is the innocent damsel in distress, but also the Gothic femme fatale, a true Batman villain in the tradition of Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman. Dangerous, powerful, and incredibly sexy. They're both willing to cross lines no one else dares, go to places no one expects, because no one could believe they could be that ruthless. They transgress. And that's what's at the heart of the Gothic. They are tales of transgression, characters crossing lines that aren't meant to be crossed. The tradition goes back to the Dark Romantics, who defied the ideals and norms of their time, embracing the irrational and the grotesque. Whether it's Frankenstein, digging up corpses, piecing them together, creating life from death, or Nosferatu, defying death itself, feeding on the living and defiling the sanctity of the home. Gothic stories are about characters who cross lines that aren't meant to be crossed, and the consequences that come from that. And this is why Sophia and Oz are distinctly Gothic villains. They're renegades, defying the established order of Gotham, shattering class structures and gender roles, disregarding the codes of the streets, escalating violence to terrifying new levels, going after family members, engaging in terroristic gang warfare. Throughout history, Gothic stories have emerged during periods of great social upheaval. These tales channeled the fears and anxieties that simmered within the collective unconscious. Stories like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Frankenstein played on the fears of the technological advancement of the Industrial Revolution, while stories like Dracula represented the fears of miscegenation and cultural contamination, and those fears are still echoed today in films like Nosferatu. What The Penguin is, at its core, is a critique of the American dream. It amplifies the concerns and distress so many of us have about the economic inequality of the world we live in today. Gotham is a dark mirror image of our capitalistic system, where the downtrodden are exploited and left to fend for themselves, while the rich elites gain more and more power. What's scary about The Penguin is that it raises a troubling question. In a world of rampant corruption, where injustice is the norm, is it justifiable to break the rules to get ahead? This question is explored through the character of Victor, who comes from a working class family that's wiped out in the floods, and in his desperation turns to Oz for mentorship. And we can understand why he would gravitate towards someone like Oz, a character that takes what he wants and isn't constrained by fear or morality. And this is why the gangster genre became so popular to begin with, going back to the gangster movies of the 1930s. These characters were sympathetic because they tapped into a feeling of disillusionment so many people felt during the Great Depression. These weren't just villains, they were symbols of rebellion, fighting back against a broken system. And this is why the genre has endured over time, and it's why the Penguin is such a compelling figure. But what is truly scary about him is he maintains a coherent worldview that so many of us can relate to.
Look, fuck it. The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. Mechanic's a good job. That should be the American dream right there. You know, beautiful story with a happy ending. But that ain't the way the world works, Vic. America's a hustle.
Oh. My dad would be ashamed of me.
You wanna know what's shameful, Vic?
Working your whole goddamn life, having nothing to show for it. You still think there's good and bad, right and wrong? There ain't. There's just this. Survival. Security, pleasure. They don't give out awards for dying in the projects.
Fuck you.
Fuck me? Fuck the goddamn world! Don't give a shit about you or your family!
And this is what the Penguin represents. He's a monster, but one we can sympathize with because so many of us have felt the same way he does. And it's a cathartic experience to watch him break the rules to get ahead. We live in a time of political and social turmoil. Inflation is rampant, people are crippled by debt, prices keep going up while wages are stagnating, and more, everyday people on either side of the political aisle agree that things just aren't working. In a world full of injustice, where wealth is consolidated in a tiny few, the path to success is becoming ever more unattainable to the average person. And it's times like these where we gravitate towards a man like the Penguin. Not a good man by any means, a villain in every sense of the word. He's terrifying because he reminds us of an uncomfortable truth of the world we live in today, that the path to success and power isn't always earned through hard work and merit. It's often seized through corruption and brute force. It's often the dark, scary monsters who rise to the top, while the weak and soft-hearted are crushed and left forgotten.